Hello. So welcome to the live stream. I don't know if my mic is working right now, so if you can let me know if you hear me. Also, let me know where you're from. Say hi. Always interested in knowing who we've got here. And wow, I'm still having internet problems, which is kind of crazy. Let me just quickly, as I say hello and I wait to make sure that you're actually hearing me, I'm going to switch to the hardwire. Hopefully that makes a difference as far as my internet connection. And if it does, hopefully we don't get disconnected as I change the, can I move this? Let's see. Duplicate service, make service, set service order, set service order. Okay, so I want to make this. Oh no, I want to make this. Sorry, guys. All right, that's got to be the priority. There we go. Cool. All right, so let me know. Okay, so Lisa hears me, so that's cool. Let me move this over, and let's see here. Cool. Hopefully this all works out. And does it sound any different than it does normally? Does it sound better, worse? Generally, I actually use a app called Crisp AI that takes out all background noise. So if someone were to cough behind me or something, you wouldn't hear it. But I wonder if, and so that was somehow malfunctioning or something. And because of that, it kept stopping the live stream. And so I apologize for that. And, but I had to bypass Crisp for the first time. And so I'm curious as to what this sounds like, if it sounds any different than what you're used to. So let me know about that. And let's see what else. So as always, guys, thank you for being here. I'm Rich Sheffrin, and I do these live streams every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesdays from 2 to 4, Thursdays from 6 to 8. And really, it's just about me sharing what's on my mind as far as things that are related to marketing and to see what's on your mind. And if there are obstacles in your path and you have some questions, I'm here to answer them. And it's a way of me creating content and kind of getting myself back out there more and more. So that's why I started doing these live streams, and especially when I was bored during coronavirus and feeling somewhat isolated, thought it was a good idea. And it's, you know, we've gotten millions of views, so I continue. So anyway, so let me know who's here. Let me know where you're from. And as I always say, you know, the way that you can help me is by making this more of a dialogue than a monologue, by participating, because one, that makes it easier for me to help you specifically. Let me know, we get to know each other, which is always a good thing. And then also, it makes it more interesting for everyone else. And then for me, it helps me, because when Facebook sees that people are engaging with material more, it shares it more. And then that's the thing that you can do the most for me. You can share it. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can give it a thumbs up. So that's the gist, I guess, with these live streams. And I am happy to be home. Was in Vegas on Tuesday, as you saw. And what's interesting to me, and I wonder whether it was the topic or if it was the fact that I had two guests, but when I loaded it up to YouTube this time, or maybe it was the image, right? Because it had Las Vegas behind me, and that's why I kind of played with the image today. It's by far the video that's gotten the most views in the shortest amount of time, which is not a lot because we're not really focusing on YouTube. But nonetheless, there's something that made it kind of rise above all others, and so I'm kind of curious what that is. And you know, generally the YouTube algorithm heavily favors what happens the first 24 hours. I know we sent an email to it, but more of the traffic coming to it is actually not from external sources, it's from internal. So that's kind of interesting. Let's see who we got here. Let's say hello to people, and then we will get into it. I wonder, actually, I'm curious if anyone could guess what you think what do you think I'm talking about today? You know, if you saw the post that I did, I said that it is the most critical piece of every marketing campaign, every successful marketing campaign. And so when you hear that, what do you think it is? What part of the equation. And I'm not talking about like a webinar or something like that. I'm talking about that spreads across any campaign, no matter what you're doing. So, hey, Jason, good to see you, my friend from Tampa. And Robert Anderson, thanks for understanding the delays. Hey, Lisa in Miami Beach. And Robert is tucking into a Caesar salad, something that I like a lot. Not in Florida. Mike is fine. Well, you don't have to be in Florida. Most people are not in Florida. Hey, Mark Walker from London. Nice to see you. And thank you, Lisa, for letting me know that you hear me. There's Damon. Thanks, Damon, for letting me know. And Eric Weinstein. Man, I was just thinking about you the other day. When are we going to see you at Mark's? Text me. Let me know. I know he was out of town for 2 weeks, but right before he went out of town, we got together on that Friday night. So let's see. Hey, Jane from DC. Good to see you. And sounds good. Cool. Does it sound better or worse or just the same? I'm just curious about that because, you know, the Crisp.ai does do a good job of getting rid of the background noise, but I don't know how much it actually impacts the voice or just the sound quality overall. Hey, Dr. Vogelman from Coronado Island. Man, what are the state taxes now going up to 18% over there? Or is it like the millionaire tax? That's insane. I know a lot of people moving out of California. Sound stronger. Oh, well, that's always good. Hey, Priya. Cool. Actually better than a phone connection. Cool. Thanks, Eric. Sounds good, but this is the first time I listen on a desktop. So that could change it too. Maybe you were the one that was preventing me from getting online. Just kidding. What are your thoughts of business building ops given 1 or 3 options? Biden wins, 1. Trump wins, 2. Drawn out contesting the results. I greatly appreciate all you're doing with Steal Our Winners and the Fab content. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Terry, for saying that. So let's see. I hope that whoever wins, it's a huge landslide. I am immensely disappointed in our country that we can no longer trust the media. I think it's insane that some group close to 50% of the population is going to be very surprised by the results, no matter which side wins. And it could be a blowout either way. I have my opinions, but I know my opinions are also somewhat biased, or my opinions are based on biased feelings. And so I know that I'm not seeing things as clearly as I believe I should if I was going to have a strong statement of prediction. But we definitely, I think, you know, for business in general, certainly Trump is better. Biden's going to raise taxes. The taxes are already going up in states as well. So that's a double whammy that will pull back on spending. If they really do attack the energy sector, then that will also raise prices across the board. That could create inflation as well. So it's a very uncertain time. I think it's a very uncertain time, not only because of who will win, but it's also a very uncertain time because I don't know how we get out of not trusting the media anymore. And that's a problem. So I don't know how that reverses, but if it doesn't reverse, then there's no longer any accountability, right? Either the thing is made up about Biden's son and Biden taking money personally, or it isn't. And we used to be able to rely on the news to get the truth, and I don't think we can anymore. So I think that doesn't bode well, and it doesn't bode well around the world either. But anyway, that's not the purpose of why you guys tune in. I am not a political talking head, so I will let you guys enjoy wherever you get that information to continue to get it in each one of our information bubbles. Hey, David, how's it going? Hey, Ron, your big idea. Starving crowd. Oh, okay. Now we're on to the ideas, right? Okay. Hey, Hugo, down in Miami. Yeah, let's messenger me, Hugo, and we'll set up that call for next week. None of you are right, by the way. Hi, Rich from Limerick, Ireland. Hey, how's it going, my friend? Eamon? Eamon? Is that how I pronounce it? I'm not sure. Let me know if I'm Eamon. I hope that's right, Eamon. Aaron Lewis from Sedona, Arizona. Glenn from Highland Beach, Florida. Hey, Glenn. Farinacci. Oh, that's cool. Highland Beach. I know the area. Priya, I'd say solution selling is probably the most important part of any marketing strategy. Dr. Vogelman, it's okay. You just need more money to enjoy the lifestyle. Or have a place in Vegas and go out west whenever you feel like it and save the 18% and use that money to fly back and forth on a private jet. An ad for Monster Drinks, haha. Yeah, I should be sponsored, right? Would guess this topic for today would be on your unique angle in creating a superior perceived value. It is your USP articulated in the form of a big idea, just a guess. Yeah, this is more basic than that, guys, but more important. Basic, but more important. A good tax accountant is worth his weight in gold. Yeah, I don't know if you want to say that publicly. It's both an uncertain and exciting time to be alive, so much opportunity. Media is a big problem. Yeah, media is a huge problem, and I really don't know how that goes down. What I did say, for those of you who were on the live stream that I did February 19th of this year, where, we had everyone fly in, I did say towards the end of that live stream, I made a prediction. I don't remember if it was the next 12 months or 18 months, but I said that Congress would go after one of the big tech companies with an antitrust lawsuit. So got that right. Also, I don't know if you guys remember when I was talking to Brian Rose, from London Real, and I was asking him, aren't you concerned that your whole business model is dependent on YouTube and you could have a problem with them? And he said no. And then, 2 or 3 months later, he had a problem with them. So I generally am pretty good at understanding what's coming, but I think with something like this, where we all come in with our own biases as far as politics, it can cloud the mind of what you come to believe, right? And so recognizing that, I think none of us should feel very certain in what we think will happen, because that certainty is relying on information that we received, and we can't put all our faith in information that we receive anymore. And that's kind of the issue. All right, so let's see. We'll come back to some comments here, and then we'll dive in. I'd say the compelling nature of the offer is the most telling part. The passion test converted to a business opportunity. You did. I remember you said it. Oh, cool. Thanks, Priya. Customer wants, needs now. I actually bought you because you suggested a revolution against big tech. Yeah, we're going to get back to that. Actually, I am considering, more than considering, I guess. I want to do it. It's now just a question of the logistics of the whole thing. But I want to do a 50-hour live stream straight around the time of my birthday, which is in March, and I turned 50. So I thought it would be kind of cool to have that live stream again, bring everybody back and celebrate my birthday at the same time, and kind of recap what's happened over the past year and what we predict will happen over the next year and what will be beneficial with that. So let me tell you, let's transition a little bit now into the topic of today. But before I do that, I'm going in that direction by talking about for a second what I was doing in Vegas. And so what I was doing in Vegas, well, the first thing I was doing in Vegas was, it was Mike Filsame's birthday, and ever since Mike Filsame moved over to the East Coast of Florida, we've been spending a lot more time together. When he was on the West Coast, or, in San Diego, or even the West Coast of Florida, I didn't see him that much. But now that he's on this side, I've been seeing him a lot, as you saw during those Groove live streams. And so it was his birthday, and he wanted to celebrate it in Vegas with a bunch of people, and so we all flew out there. It just so happens that, as I said I think on Tuesday's live stream, that when I learned theory of constraints, God knows how many years ago, right? I learned it from this gentleman, not personally. I was self-taught, but I read a lot of books, and I also tracked down some bootleg videos of this guy, Dr. Alan Bernard, teach a South African expert on theory of constraints, teaching at this Indian company, to the executives. Theory of constraints. It was a 2-day workshop. I went through that, and I got it transcribed, and I studied it, and would download all of his presentations as well and look at the slides and learn from it. And he had heard about me but never really checked me out. And I had also taught or explained some of the concepts of theory of constraints over the years with Jay Abraham. And somehow Jay Abraham and Alan hooked up, and when they were talking, Jay mentioned my name, and he had said he had heard of me. And so we started talking more, and Alan was really impressed with where, mentally I had went with the content, as well as the insights that I kind of had with the theory of constraints and where it was strong, where it was weak, and things like that. So anyway, this is all leading somewhere. So what Alan has kind of moved towards, which he did with Ellie, which is kind of funny because I met Ellie once. I don't know. I hope you guys are following this. I met Ellie Goldratt once, and Ellie was the creator of Theory of Constraints. And in his materials, he had said that the number one constraint in marketing, in the function of marketing, is the offer. And that if you make an over-the-top offer, which he called the mafia offer, an offer so good that the customer can't refuse, they will take it. And therefore, that's how you break the constraint of marketing. And I disagreed. When I heard it and when I read all the material on it, I still disagreed. And so when I had the chance to meet him at this Theory of Constraints conference in Las Vegas sometime in 2008, I believe, I told him that I thought that the number one constraint in marketing was not the offer. Maybe if I would have bought into that more, maybe my offers would have been stronger a lot sooner and not had to wait almost a decade until I had that experience with the Russell Brunson webinar, for those of you who have heard that story. But I told him that I didn't think that it was the offer, although that would obviously come next after the constraint that I thought there was. And what the constraint that I thought there was attention. And at the end of the day, any successful marketing campaign has to get attention. And I bring that up because where Alan and Ellie eventually got to was, or at least Alan, I'm pretty certain that it was him and Ellie, but I don't remember now in the story that Alan was telling me, that the number one constraint in the businesses that he operates with, which are, Nike and IBM and companies like that, redesigning their supply chain and things like that, is management's attention. And that was another reason that Alan was kind of blown away by what I had done, because I actually had written reports on attention, prior to 2008. Actually, and I want you guys to think about, we talked about in the live stream that we did like about 2 weeks ago about there being a difference between attention capture and paying attention, right? Paying attention does not have the same impact as when you capture someone's attention. Because when you capture someone's attention, they're more likely, one, to go into a flow state, right? They're also not consciously processing what is being said, as they're consciously processing, they're not critically analyzing. And that the longer someone pays, the longer someone's attention is captured, the more bonding happens and the more propensity to accept whatever offer. And I thought it would be a fun experience and to actually spend some time on attention. And so this morning, I started a book that I've been wanting to read forever, but just never had the inclination or a strong enough reason, I guess, or bandwidth of my attention, that I read. I started reading this book. I'm about halfway done, I think. Wrapped, R-A-P-T. And it's all about, the quality of your attention at the end of the day is the quality of your life, what you pay attention to, right? The idea is one of the things, right? We've heard this, I think most of you have, that when they do studies, of people who become paralyzed and people who win the lottery, neither one, 7 years out, 5 years out, some period of time, is any happier or sadder, which boggles the mind, right? We think that if we won the lottery and we won millions of dollars, that we would be ecstatic, and we would for a period of time. But because of the hedonic treadmill, ultimately we would go back to baseline, right? And it's the same for paraplegics. We believe that if we were paralyzed, we would not ever maybe be happy again, or we just couldn't take it. But actually, same length of time out, we are no more unhappy than we were before. Now, that we've heard, I would imagine that most of you have heard that. And even if you've heard it, it might boggle your mind. Like, how can that be? Well, attention is the answer to that. Attention, where you place your attention, becomes the most important thing to you in any given moment, right? So obviously, when you first win the lottery, or if you were first paralyzed, you're going to give a lot of attention to what you can now do that you won the lottery, or what you can't do, right? But just like pain, you can get distracted and you can forget about being in pain. It's the same here. We, over time, spend less attention on things we've grown accustomed to, and therefore what we've grown accustomed to no longer gets our attention, and because it doesn't get our attention, it doesn't have an impact on us. One of the reasons why doing the exercise in a journal of writing what you're grateful for every morning, 5 things, the reason that works, the reason that changes, can raise your level of happiness over time and is a very effective technique to do that, is because you're now directing your attention to what it is, right? You're directing your attention. Totally lost my train of thought there, guys, for a second. When you place your attention on anything, everything else fades out, and it becomes very like the core of what you're focused on. So this is incredibly important. And as we kind of think about marketing and knowing that, how important attention is, and that attention is incredibly scarce. So I pulled up, and I want to get this. I got to get this. I want to pull up, I'm going to pull up my reports, because this, to me, has been coming for a long time. And actually, let's see here. Just want to see if it loaded yet. Did it load? Did it load? It's loading as we speak. All right. I think. Not yet. I took a picture because as I was taking it out of my iPad, my reports, I was kind of blown away that I wrote the Attention Age Doctrine 1 14 years ago, and I wrote the Attention Age Doctrine 2 13 years ago. So we're talking quite a while. And what's interesting to me is really the what I was already seeing and how I was trying to connect the dots. So I want to go back to the comments for a second. Then I want to pull the reports out. We kind of look at them, and I can tell you the backstory of them, and then point out certain elements, persuasive elements, as well as attention capturing elements as well, and kind of talk about the implications of this. And my hope is that, you guys also have some really good questions about this. We can kind of discuss it. And then over the weekend and when I work out tomorrow, finishing the book, I can really start thinking more about attention and the implications, because it's been a long time since I've done that. And before I go back to the comments for a second, I was thinking about something else as related to this, and I'm concerned that I might forget it, and I think it's important, so I want to share it. And that is that one of the reasons I do keep a journal is that I like to, or I need to, I really feel, check in with myself. That if I don't check in on a daily basis, I can tend to kind of go on automatic, and days can pass and I'm like, I don't even know what I did really. I mean, it's not like a blackout or something. I'm totally conscious, but the days just slip away. And so it's a good way for me to check in, remind myself what's important, what's the focus for today. They say that I might need something like that to do because of ADD or whatnot. The other thing, though, that I do in my journal nowhere near as frequently as checking in is making sense, right? Sense making. Trying to take a few minutes and step outside of myself and kind of look at the world and what I've experienced, what I believe other people are experiencing, and really thinking through what could that mean? Where are things headed? I'm trying to make sense of the experiences I've had to just get a glimmer of what might occur next. And I've been asked countless times, like, how have I predicted a lot of things right? And I think that at the end of the day, probably, and I never really thought about it, but I was thinking about attention and where do I place my attention? And one of the things I place my attention on from time to time is trying to make sense of the world. And by doing that, I think that probably has me, one, paying attention to things more, and two, knowing what to kind of notice for. These things kind of take time. But I want to stress, right, how important prioritizing what gets your attention, and at least as best as possible trying to optimize the payoff of the attention that you place on things by being able to increase your, damn it, maybe I did it earlier. No, I didn't. Bummer. Optimizing your attention, getting a bigger payoff from your attention can be game-changing. So, for example, it was this research that I did about attention that got me really serious about speed reading, about pushing my limits on being able to listen faster, watch faster, all those kinds of things. Because my attention, right, if you have to give 8 hours to a book to process it, and I have to give it 2 hours, I'm getting a bigger payoff for the attention that I provide, right? That gives me extra attention to provide somewhere else. The other side of it is recognizing, and this is stuff right from the reports, is recognizing that your prospects are in the same place. And so they have to feel as if you provided value to them for their attention. So that was kind of the underlying philosophy, you could say, or belief that kind of guided the reports that I wrote. And you can do it with information, but you can do it with other things too. Conor McGregor, that's his glove back there above the picture, and he is witty. And what I've noticed is that witty people provide that randomness, right? Like a slot machine that when you hit, you get that dopamine surge in anticipation of whether you do or not. Someone who is witty has random payoffs of the same you pay attention because you want those dopamine hits. So if you enjoy this person, in this particular case, I'm talking about Conor McGregor, I do. He is witty. He says funny things that are unexpected from time to time. I'm paying more attention to him while he's talking, anticipating the next time he says something like that. And so it captures my attention. So let's kind of go back to the questions here, or the comments, or the best wishes or whatnot. Remember that the more you participate, the more you're helping me, as well as we're getting to know each other as well. And the absolute best thing that you can do for me is share if you're on Facebook, and subscribe if you're watching this on YouTube. All right, so let's see. Do you have a 50-50 chance of having that live stream? I think it's much more than 50%. It's now just a question of understanding how to do the timing so it makes sense. Aida, yes, attention, interest, desire, action. It's just that it's recognizing, Damon, that there is now so much competition for our attention. And more often than not, our attention is actually not even complete. It's partial because it's being spread. And that there's a tremendous impact on how we market based on that. Rich, sorry I'm late. Time changed here last weekend. Yeah, it changed everywhere, didn't it? Right? Isn't it now? Or is that sometime next week or something? But you're never late. This is a live stream. You come, you go as you please. Like no commitment to having to be here. I'm the only one that's committed to being here the whole time, because it'd be kind of weird. Okay, knowledge is preaching. Buddha said exactly that. In crafting your irresistible offer, I would have thought that getting the attention of your prospect is implied in that process, the headline of your sales letter, isn't it? Yeah, but just because of that doesn't mean that most people are going to know about it. There are people who can do a concert today in Madison Square Garden, sell it out for 5 days, and I could be standing right next to that performing artist and wouldn't know it. I would have no idea who that person is. So we have become more disconnected as we've become overly connected. And I certainly wrote about that in those reports years and years ago. Oh, I think I found the thing. Let's see if it came up. If it did, let's see. No. All right, I'll stop playing with it. Okay, so that's that. Just because you have a great offer doesn't mean that the world's going to know about it. All right. Last week you said methods go stale as everyone becomes aware of them and cycle back to effectiveness after 10 to 20 years as people forget. Exactly, right? And that's a function of hiding the fact that there's a sales message, because we are less, look, 50 years ago, but sometime around 50 years ago, there was such a thing as door-to-door salesmen, and they would knock on people's doors, and people would invite them in and have them come in and pitch them on things. How effective, like how receptive would you be now to someone knocking on your door, right now or this evening, and saying, I'd like to come in and present you about vacuum cleaners or encyclopedias? That day and age, I mean, maybe I'm not saying that nobody would let you in, but the majority certainly wouldn't let you in. And we don't want to give our attention to things like that, like spam calls. We feel like it's taking away our attention. And attention is very different than time, right? Because, they're not the same, because time passes and is even always through. Attention can be, you can have certain limits on your attention based on how you're feeling, based on what else is occurring for you. So there's a very big difference between the two, even though it's easy to kind of think about them the same way. Yes, I guess some people are in a different time zone. Insight planner. Oh, that's cool. Very true. People provide a degree of surprise and delight. Right. This weekend we fall ahead. Spring back, fall ahead. Time change November 1st. Thanks, Glenn. I remember door-to-door salesmen, particularly the vacuum cleaner salesman. That's how my grandmother bought hers. Right. Like that, because, and think about why. It's because we are much less tolerant of our time, right? But more importantly, our attention being consumed by things that we don't want or that are trying to separate us from our money, right? Spam is the same issue. It's an attention-sucking thing. My first full-time job was door-to-door sales. Was door-to-door 40 years ago, selling subscriptions to a book club. I was very good at it. I hated it. You know, you're in good company, Matt. Most of the legends of direct response, you know, Jay Abraham, Gary Halper, did do some door-to-door selling, and a lot of them credit that as being very beneficial to later their abilities. For me, I noticed that I majored in graphic design. I noticed spelling or typography mistakes. So I would think that objects or settings that are intimate to your audience would get their attention. More so if it isn't correct, like a picture of a bird with a falcon logo, but the bird is actually a hawk. Yeah, something incongruous, right? Incongruent could certainly do that. But recognize that there's a million things at any given moment that we could place our attention on. And that when we're walking with someone else, we don't see the world the same way. What we pay attention to is different. And because of that, our experience is different, which I was kind of going to go full circle. It's, you know, there's the trite saying, right? It's not what happens to you. It's how you deal with what happens to you or how you respond, right? But really, it's about what you pay attention to, right? Because if paying attention for 5 minutes in the morning of things that you're grateful for make a significant difference long-term in your happiness baseline, that's just 5 minutes, right? Meditating, focusing your attention for 10 minutes a day has payoff. So our attention is precious. We can't use it 24 hours a day, you know, because how we feel, our mood, all of these things are affected by it, but it also affects all those things. And I'm trying to point that out, that if you place your attention on negative things, you will feel worse, right? At the same time, at the same exact moment, you could place your attention on positive things and you'd be happier. And so capturing the attention of a prospect gives you immense power, especially because we have more and more guards up for attention. The new Apple phone that they just started selling like a week or two ago now has a block all calls button, except for people in my address book, right? I'm not talking about the nighttime setting. I'm talking about during the day. Just for now on, it does not accept any calls that are not already in my phone. So that's an option now. And when people had cell phones first came out, right, like we wanted to have caller ID on them so we could also screen. So I'm just trying to point out to you that there is this continual kind of attention war that is happening. All right, so let's kind of look back at this. Time and space are relative to each observer, so the match in attention is important to maintain between two. Too far ahead or behind the other person will lose their attention. Yes. Would it be right to say that you need to be able to distract before you can attract, shift their attention from something else in order to get their attention? Distraction is an important component of getting attraction, getting attention. Would it be correct to say that? I think you're on the right track, Damien, but understand that what's a distraction, if I'm interrupting you and that causes a distraction, right? There is also seducing, which is also, right, getting attention. And so an interruption is a distraction. So, yeah, I would say that don't think of it as a distraction. Think of it as an interruption. Hey, Rich, would you mind explaining again the difference between attention capture versus paying attention? One is more driven through unconscious behavior. One is driven more by conscious behavior, right? So attention capture is something's doing it, and you're not making the conscious choice that I will pay attention, right? You are just like hooked in. Someone's telling a great story. You're in a movie theater and you're totally... The way I judge whether I'm watching a good movie or not is if I look at my watch during the movie. If my attention is completely captured, I have no desire to look at my watch. As soon as my attention is no longer captured, I then look at my watch, and then it's what I know that I didn't get what I wanted from that movie. So I hope that kind of distinguishes that, right? One is a capturing, one is a more conscious choice. There was something else about conscious choices I wanted to share with you on that. I lost it. Sorry. Crazy day. I'm losing lots of stuff mentally today. All right. So anyway, let's now take a look at some of this stuff. And so let me pull this up here. Hold on, guys. I'm going to go to the attention age doctrine. Whoops. 1. That does not look like the attention age doctrine 1 at all. So let's see. That's the attention age doctrine 2. This is the attention age doctrine 1. Kind of, it was, I did this one. Let me also, whoops, hold on. Let's see, where is I need to do one thing here just so I can add this picture, if I can. Where is this? I want to get rid of that. All right, there we go. And how do can I do this? Okay. So what I want to show you, or what I want to talk to you about, is one that I wrote this, 14 years ago. And where? Okay. Let's see. Just trying to look at this. And the other thing I wanted to mention on it was that I wanted to also point out that, wow, I tried to make this one look more like a magalog, right? And, I wanted to tell you a little bit of the backstory. So let's go back to this for 1 second here. No, that's the wrong camera. So what's now going on? Oh, there we go. All right. So now, okay. So what happened, the reason I wrote the attention age doctrine 1, and so I think if I tell you guys this, it will help actually, because you'll get a sense of at least the spin in marketing, and also different ways of spinning stuff and positioning stuff. So my team wanted to have this really big event in Delray Beach. We had a seminar for our coaching clients twice a year, And that was free if you were a client, and we didn't sell it to people outside. So the only way you could go to those seminars was if you were a client. They were no pitch events, and the top gurus at the time were speaking at it. That's why, I had Gary Vaynerchuk, Jay Abraham, John Carlton, Jeff Walker, Frank Kern, everybody, myself, etc. Ryan Dice. My team decided they wanted to make a much bigger event. I thought it was a bad idea, but they went forward with it anyway. And then what happened is that about a month and a half before the event, we were way upside down. And they came to me and said, we have a problem. We guaranteed 500 people and we've only got 300 people coming or something. Or we guaranteed 800 people and we only have 400. This is 14 years ago. And I was like, I told you guys that was not wise. So I had to come up with something to now sell this seminar, right? And I had already written the Internet Business Manifesto, the missing chapter of the manifesto, right? And the final chapter of the manifesto. Kind of thought I was done for a while writing reports. But I wasn't, because I needed to now sell this seminar, right? Now, this seminar was just a client appreciation seminar. So I had to first kind of do some research, look at what I'd been thinking about, reading about, and kind of came to the conclusion that attention is scarce today, back in 2006 and 2007, and only going to become more scarce. And so I decided that that would be the thing that I would turn into the theme of the event, and I would ask the speakers to kind of use that as a filter for what they're presenting, and then added 2 days to the event so that people could optimize their attention by learning how to speed read. I brought the person in who I learned from, and then from there, and all the speed reading and all the practice was done with like John Carlton's newsletter and all different good marketing stuff as well. Gave people software and then the event as well. So I only had time to write the first part of the report and get it out there because I didn't have enough time. When I finally released the Attention Age Doctrine 1, there was only what? There was only 3 weeks until the actual event was time for the event. So let's take a look at this. All right, cool. How do I want this. There we go. Cool. So I kind of set this up with of what's going on in the world, right? So I am now starting to frame, right? I want you to kind of recognize that whenever a message is received, the packaging tells a story about the information, and that the packaging around that information also sets a frame. And that in the framing of the information, it can make all the world of difference of whether your message gets attention. So to just jump out of this report for a second, even though we just jumped in, think about like the way I position, let's talk about the Internet Business Manifesto for a second. The way I positioned the Internet Business Manifesto was that there was a coach who coached all these people who you've seen rise, who is now going to move on to other things. He's not going to coach anymore. And before he left and stopped working with people, he wanted everyone to know certain things that make a big difference if you want to be successful. Like there's a story about the thing that is delivering the message. That story either makes that message more desirable or less desirable. What I'm trying to do is think about how desirable can I make my container for my message so that if my prospect was in a doctor's office and it was sitting there, you know, amongst the magazines and whatever else, would they be tempted to steal it because they really wanted that information? Right? Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. I'm looking at your comments. So let's take a look at how I'm framing this, right? What you now hold in your hands is a snapshot of my research over the past 12 months with my thousands of clients, including many of the most successful marketing gurus and the biggest direct response companies on the planet. You see, our world is changing. Our personal lives, our businesses, and everything that surrounds us, they're all changing. In a blink of an eye, certain weaknesses are all of a sudden strengths, and a number of strengths are now irrelevant. Disorders have become natural gifts, and a select few have already leveraged them to build thriving businesses with incredible profits. Here's my promise to you. If you understand and apply the information in this doctrine, you can build a very successful business in record time. Regardless of your past, whether you've been successful or not, no matter how many times you have tried, because right now, with this information, your ability to profit enormously has never been more certain. Back when I finished the Manifesto trilogy, I thought I'd never write another report. In fact, I was so certain I was done, I named it the final chapter. But I was wrong. Oops. All right. The calm before the storm. Something dramatic is happening in the marketplace. It's not email deliverability rates. It's not search engine optimization. It's not shift from sales letters to video, nor is it pay-per-click, banners, or any other paid advertising methods. In fact, it's nothing technical whatsoever. It isn't because marketing is less effective, although many will say it is, or that there's a lack of money, although there will be for many marketers. In fact, deeper than any of these things, it's the unfortunate price of admission many entrepreneurs will have to pay as we enter a new era. There's been a fundamental shift in the currency of our entire economy. People have simply reached a saturation point in their lives. All the cool technology, all the nifty gadgets, and many of today's modern conveniences have turned on us. For entrepreneurs who don't get this, don't get it, this is going to be a growing problem. And this should be obvious, but in case, like, if we have a bunch of anybody that's relatively new to the game of marketing or copywriting, I do my best to try to not end on a sentence. I try to end mid-sentence. That is always a reason then to get people to turn to the next page. All right. All right. For entrepreneurs who don't get it, this is going to be a growing problem, like an undetected terminal disease, slowly eating away and destroying the ability to market effectively and profit. But it doesn't have to be that way, because right here in the Attention Age Doctrine, I'm going to show you how to keep blasting on, earn massive profits, and grow your business as fast as you desire. 2.5 years ago, each of these successful entrepreneurs acted on my last prediction, and they've all become millionaires. This time, the signals are even stronger, the profit potential even greater, and the possibilities are more certain. Right now, so I'm just going to read like a little bit more and then we'll stop, maybe another minute or two. Right now, I feel even more certain than I did back in February of 2005. Back then, I spotted an emerging trend online before anyone else did. The sharp increases in competition screamed out to me that the winners would be the first marketers to build systematized, well-running businesses. I acted immediately on this trend. I set up a pilot coaching program. Only 25 clients were accepted for the initial test run. 12 months later, the results they achieved are now legendary. Here are a few of the stories you might recognize. So this was Hans and Danny Johnson. They went from $500,000 to $6 million. There's Mike Filsaime. He went from $15,000 a month to $300,000 a month. Those of you who have spent any time around ClickFunnels, that is Jim Edwards, who is, who wrote Copy Secrets, I think, with Russell or by himself. I was ready to quit the internet. There's Rob Bell. He was the CEO of One Shopping Cart before he sold it. And there's the Grand Canyon. They went from 1.1 million to 2.1 million by the time I wrote the manifesto. And by the time I wrote this, they were at 4 million. There's someone who went from 25K a month to over 100K a month. Blah, 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 right? So with results like these, my predictions proved to be dead on. So I rolled out a coaching program, and to put it mildly, it was an extraordinary success. Fast forward to today, Strategic Profits helps thousands of entrepreneurs grow their businesses faster while working less, and demand for our programs keeps growing with each new success story. Anyway, so I could go on. I'm going to put this in the, I'll put this in the Facebook group, and I'll put the Attention Age Doctrine 2 in the Facebook group. But now I'm not going to read. I'm just going to scroll through. Then we're going to go back to your questions, and then we're going to talk about this some more. Okay, so I'm talking about, understand that some of this, obviously some of this is very self-aggrandizing. And unfortunately, part of being a influencer, an authority, a guru, whatever you want to call it, is self-aggrandizement. And you have to do it in a deftly way. And I probably was too overt here, and I would do it differently today. But, the world does not anoint you. You have to claim it. And so, I always make this joke when I'm around friends that, if anything good happens around me, like in a 100-yard radius, I take credit for it. It's a joke, right? But that's what gurus do, right? If anybody that I'm in action with has something great happen, I need to share that. So anyway, so you can see, like in 2006, we clobbered our 2005 numbers by a factor of 30 times. And by March of 2007, we already had surpassed what we made in 2006. We were obviously kicking some serious you-know-what. All right, so now I pose this question, but do you understand that, like, I've just framed the report? I have, made a claim that, the whole world is changing and it's going to impact every business. And, the last time I said this is what happened to the people who followed my advice, and I feel much stronger about this than I felt about that. If you recognize those people, or they are familiar to you, and you saw their rise, and this person is now who is who played a role in it, is now telling you that there's an even bigger chance, it should have your attention. And so that backstory is a little interesting from a standpoint of recognizing that I'm really in there. What I'm doing is I'm framing the report. I want you to look at the report in a very specific way, and that specific way is going to help me sell you later on. But first, I got to get you to buy in. First, I got to get your attention, and I got to get you to read it. And since reading is less passive than watching, I got to work a little bit harder. So why do 53 of the 75 plus gurus I've coached have ADD? Right? So this now opens up a question. And since I'm talking about attention, this is a real easy way for me to now glide right into the content without any break, so that it seems like it's the same conversation, but now I'm actually introducing the concept right up front, but I'm doing it. I already said, right, it's called the Attention Age Doctrine, so I'm not making it hidden that I'm talking about attention. But by throwing in that the ADD thing, I'm reminding people that I've coached more than 75 of today's top experts, right? But I'm also now leveraging the fact that a lot of people kind of think that they have ADD-like qualities. All right. And there's only one person who could say that, right? That's me, because there hasn't been anyone who's coached so many authorities and experts, period. Okay. So I'm using that to kind of say that that's an interesting question. Why did so many of my clients have successful, people at the top of their field? Why do they have ADD? And what does that mean? So you see what I'm saying here? Like, once again, reinforcing how pivotal of a time this is. You and I both stand on the threshold of the greatest wealth-building business opportunity in history. But for many, it could be a gruesome business disaster. And I believe that to be the case. Like, if you look at the biggest companies in the world at this moment, none of them were Google. They weren't any of the big companies that are of today. All of them shifted. And this was, calling it, because you'll see in Attention Age Doctrine 2, I talk about attention becoming social online. That's, and where people are going. But here, I'm trying to build up to, oh, this is so good. Okay. for those of you who have been on a lot of these live streams, I think I'm about to connect a ton of dots, a ton. And so this is going to be cool. I've just got to get rid of Hugo's thing here. There we go. Okay. But I'm also doing something else. And it's something that I spent a bunch of time on way months ago when I started doing these live streams, when I was doing it from our Hamptons house. It might have even been before I went out to the gym, but I don't remember. And I'm not going to expect anyone to remember it. I'm pretty certain it was when I was out in our gym in the Hamptons house. Anyway, if you guys remember that I talked about context and how the context is decisive. And I told you about that research study with priests in training at a seminary, and how all they had to do was tell someone they were late and it would shift their behavior, whether they would help someone, even though they were giving a sermon on the importance of helping people. And when we talked about that, I told you that that I learned this from transformation, but it's incredibly powerful as it relates to marketing, that the context is decisive. It determines behavior. It's one of the reasons why, it was one of the reasons why when, I'm just trying to think of the examples that I used when I was telling you, like one, how New York got cleaned up, right? By not tolerating small stuff, it created a context that crime is not accepted here. It's the broken window theory. That's what I was trying to think of. So what I've always found is that there's, you can tease a benefit, and that's powerful, right? That's your common, what, people were asking me earlier about, like, if you put a strong offer in the headline, people will pay attention. You can warn people about a negative event, right? Like a hurricane coming. But that kind of negative event is actually more about a change in context, right? So I would say a negative event would be, if you don't do this thing, you're not going to be prepared for something, or you're not going to be able to grow your business or whatnot. But when you shift the context determines what behaviors are okay and what behaviors are not, right? We don't always act the same everywhere with everyone. So when you shift the context on something, old behaviors might no longer make any sense, and new behaviors might make more sense, and ways of looking at things change. So what I'm doing in this report is I'm using a shift in context to now open up a gap, a hole, a concern that for the prospect, am I going to be able to thrive in this new environment? So by talking about this shift and this new environment, I'm getting the prospect to now evaluate, place their attention, one, on attention, and two, that their lack of preparation for it, because no one was prepared for it, because for most people, if not all, no one was thinking about this, right? Herbert Simon thought about it in the 1970s when he said, as information proliferates, what it turns scarce is attention. But, not too many people read Herbert Simon. So my point, though, is that most people go benefit, right? I go more what you think are problems are really symptoms of a deeper problem. But in these reports, in certain reports, what I did was more about the world has changed and is quickly. The world is changing and is going to change more. And wherever you are right now is an indicator of where you're going to be. You're going to be, it's going to be magnified. Worse off, better off, right? Like if you're better off now, you'll be even better if things are going, really well right now, and if worse off. Remember what I said before, right? Not today, but in the past, that I see markets as a group of people who share a conflict, and that those people did not join that market yesterday. So they've tried to resolve this conflict. Right now, I'm telling them that the world is changing. When the world's changing, they have an opportunity now to be at the forefront as opposed to behind like they've been. So there's additional forward push pressure that this time could be different, in addition to a new way because the environment's changing. And maybe this shift has been the reason why they're not getting the result. So I feel like right now I want to go to the comments, because I feel as if most of you haven't been, but there have been a few of you that have been on a lot of these live streams. And for you especially, you've heard me talk about shifts in context based on when we did a whole live stream or two about it. And now I'm showing you it in action. And once again, I don't know that, like, some of the other stuff I was showing you guys about marketing a couple weeks ago, this is another thing that I don't want to say that I've invented shifting the context on people, because I certainly haven't. I haven't seen it identified and explained as it relates to marketing. I'm sure there are lots of people who do it. It's not, you only have so many options in marketing to elicit new beliefs and change old ones and get someone moving in a direction and taking action. So I'm sure there are tons of people, but I've not seen anyone ever talk about it. And I don't know that many people recognize what they're doing. So I'm curious now that I'm sharing all this to kind of see what you guys are thinking. So let's see. Just kind of looking. Bro Online. Hi, Rich. As a new marketer, can you please share some of your flaws and how it was for you at the beginning of your marketing career? Did you struggle? Did you almost give up? Please share with me, as I always only heard just great things about you. It sounds like you're a genius. No, I certainly am not. Let's see. Look, I've shared numerous times that I'm a perfectionist. I'm a procrastinator. I have tremendous challenges, and I thought, I was successful offline. I got online and I struggled quite a bit for the first 2 years. I actually not only struggled, but I basically sacrificed my life for a couple of years from a standpoint that all I did was sit in front of the computer. So much so that right now, I'm not like a picture of thinness or anything like that. I'm not ripped or anything like that, but I'm about 195. At my best, I'm about 175. But during that time, I was 250 pounds. And I'm not that tall. So I had a 44-inch waist. I now have a 32-inch waist. I was basically sitting in front of the computer all the time, and I was seeing other people succeed, and I wasn't, and I was, what's wrong with me? But one of the things I was doing, as it relates especially to what we're talking about today, attention, my attention was so diffuse. And it's very hard when you're not focused to accomplish anything of significance. I hope that helps, Bro Online. Paying attention to the positive rewires you to become aware of the beneficial thoughts and beliefs. That will change your ability to appropriately respond to external circumstances. I just got a text from Maxwell Finn. He was apologizing for not getting back to me sooner. He's got his hands full as a new dad, which I totally understand. Every distractant gets me less traction. What are your thoughts? Hold on on one of the best ways to grab attention is by matching an explicit or implicit desire of a prospect with a message, sending those explicit and implicit desires. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously that's a technique. Whether it's one of the best ways or not, I'm not sure. Things that are incongruent. Over time, our attention is a protective mechanism that we divert our attention to anything that's incongruous because we don't know. We need to size things up so that we don't get killed, right? This is our genetic background and our ancestry. We don't necessarily need it like that anymore, but that's what happens. So when we first win the lottery, it gets our attention on a daily basis because it's so not like what we're used to. As we become more used to something, we give it less attention, and until we give it no attention, and then it has no impact on our life, kind of like like what all the examples we were talking about. So whether or not that's one of the best ways or not, it certainly can be an effective way for sure. But it's not, it depends on whose attention you're trying to get. It depends on what the context is, the situation, and everything else, right? I just did a Steal Our Winners interview about 2 hours ago, and I did it with Chris Brisson, And Chris has been a friend of mine for a long time. He started a company called Call Loop, and now he has a company called Sales Message. And I remember and Sales Message is this really cool company. It's a texting-based company where he has a ton of different companies as clients, but to just use an example, any kind of sales-based business, whether that's cars or it's computers, nowadays, most prospects want to communicate through text. They don't want phone calls. If you want to get a message across or get a message back, you have such a higher percentage chance of that actually happening by sending a text instead of making a call, right? I don't answer any call I don't recognize, and most of the time I have my ringer off, but I will let text come in. And that's how a lot of people are. And so if you're a salesperson and you need to communicate with someone, you need to be able to text them. But do you want to give every customer that walks into your place of business or however you do business your cell phone number? That's kind of an issue. And so what Chris's company does is gives everyone a different number that they can use for texting that's in their phone, that also the company is privy to, captures the name, the email address, all that. So if a salesperson leaves, they don't leave with all the business. And so it's a thriving company because so many people now are more willing to communicate through text than phone. And so, all these factors come into the equation of how do you get people's attention. Because if they're not answering their phone, then calling them, telling them about the offer ain't going to work, right? I know that's kind of not exactly what you're saying, but I'm just using that as an example, that there are very few always kind of things, but what is common and must happen is you must get your prospects' attention. It's impossible to get them to buy if they're not paying attention unless they're in a zombie state, right? Okay, let's look here. Cool, thank you for sharing. Okay, yes, I hope it makes perfect sense. Cool. Oh, that's about the report. Great copy, by the way. Thank you. If attention is the new currency and someone has attention deficit disorder, is that person lacking in wealth? No, because what this influx of information, interruption, communication, all these things has done is made a lot of other people behave in a way like they have ADD, like when you have continuous partial attention for a long period of time, that therefore they're not even treated. And so we actually have, in my opinion, we have a greater ability to deal with that kind of interruptive, overflowing type of information load. We have problems elsewhere, but we don't get as stressed, and we're able to block stuff out, but it has to be the right stuff. Thank you for putting in. Great. Thank you for putting in. Yeah, I'll put them in the thing. As a doctor, my father liked to take no credit card as well as take no blame. It was not his avoidance of responsibility, but an acknowledgement that he could not control what patients did outside of his office. Yeah, of course. Right? Wow, this is powerful. The pandemic push has really propelled my business forward. Both the energy and opportunities have been transformational. That's great to hear, Chris. I can't believe this group is free. You're welcome, Isabella. I remember the stream you talked about context. I think Oren Klaff talks about it in his book, too, Flip the Script. He calls it Winter is Coming. Right, but what I'm saying is it doesn't even have to be winter, right? I'm not saying that everything's horrible. I'm saying it's different. Things that are different get attention. So if something different's about to happen, you're going to pay attention. Certainly, if something bad is about to happen, you'll pay attention too. But here I'm talking about technology. And in fact, I'm looking forward to sharing this presentation I did with you guys. I'm going to put it in the group, and maybe we'll watch it one time together, and I'll comment on it, and I'll explain what I'm doing. But it's a presentation on AI, and I did it about 2 years ago. It's still pretty up to date, so I probably should do that sooner rather than later. But Oren's great at what he does, so it doesn't surprise me. Maxwell Finn, congrats on your new bundle of joy. Yes. New is always better than improved. Provide a new opportunity of doing something. Create a paradigm shift rather than trying to improve an existing condition, kind of like Moses in the Promised Land. Would that be correct? Yeah, new is always better than improved, right? Because once again, you're talking to a group of people. They haven't gotten the results. Something better might not, it's just more, right? New is a totally different way. Not always, right? But, well, yeah, it is. And we wouldn't replace something with something new unless it was better. So new implies more difference. I recall that schizophrenics lack the filter to reduce attention to an abundance of stimuli that would apparently benefit from paying less attention. Yep. Very true. You have a higher chance of reaching me via text, and I also do not answer unrecognized phone numbers. Yeah, in fact, I tell most people that I'm close with, if you send me an email, you have to text me and let me know that it's in my email box, because I don't check my email that frequently. My email box represents the world's priorities, not mine. My text messages represent my peers and friends' priorities and family. Those are important to me. So anyone I'm close with knows that emailing me is absolutely the worst way to try and get in touch with me. They know that texting is the absolute best way. And then, you know, everything in between. However, I really love a great phone conversation. Yeah, I like that too. But you know what I do, Chris, is, and it's, I assume it's okay to call you Chris. I really like Zoom calls. And the reason I like Zoom calls so much, or Skype or FaceTime, is that because of my ADD, left to my own devices, if I'm having a phone conversation, I'm generally going to get up and I'm going to start doing other things and not giving then the phone call all of my attention. So I like to kind of make myself accountable by doing more Zoom calls or FaceTime so that I have to look at the person so that they know I'm not looking at them, so that then I don't do those kinds of things. It all depends, Paul, I guess, on who you're calling, right? I'm old school. For me, phone is better because you can get an answer straight away instead of going back and forth in text and email. Yeah, if the other person on the other side answers, right? As a salesperson, I totally agree. It's a must to keep the attention of the buyer. The minute you lose his attention, you lost the sale. Yeah. Glad you could catch me live too, April. Text me if you send me an email. Emails are other people's agendas. Exactly. Not that texts aren't necessarily, but You got to know me a lot better to get my phone number than you do my email, right? An impulse buy at the supermarket checkout. Buying a chocolate from the counter is the result of attention that leads to action. So getting sustained attention that leads to purchase would be the ability to create a series of impulses. Just a thought. Well, anticipation is one of the most powerful drivers of behavior. And so incongruities that keep us focused in the moment, anticipation of what's coming next, are probably those two combined are probably the most powerful. It's kind of like self-interest and curiosity in the headline. Like those two things come together really well. Christopher's preferable over Chris, but either work. Most people call me Dr. V, but you are not most people. Okay, Dr. V. I hate Zoom, but respect. We'll Zoom next time. Yeah, that's why I'm always doing that, Ryan. That's why I'm always like, yeah, or FaceTime, because I just easily get distracted. Let's talk tomorrow, Ryan. I know I keep saying that, so text me. You have my link. Like, pick a time, and let's just get on the calendar. I do, however, now suffer from an overabundance of text messages. Time to respond with stop to many of them. Yeah. Yeah, actually, the Steal Our Winners is all about that. Effectively using text messages in marketing. So what do you suggest we should do to grab attention? I suggest you tune in next week, because I'm going to have to give more thought, because the things always change, right? So I haven't really thought that much about attention in general, and then the specifics of attention in quite a long time. So I decided this morning to begin, read Half a Wrapped, because I've got a bunch of books on attention that I haven't gotten to. And as I was saying at the beginning of the beginning of the live stream, that this project I'm doing with Jay Abraham and Alan, which is why part of the reason I was in Vegas, the people in the theory of constraints world, at least Alan, who's very high up in the theory of constraints world, believes that it's the number one constraint in business today is attention. And I certainly thought it was the currency of our age, but I didn't recognize that other people necessarily thought that. And so now that I have that, thanks, man. Looking forward to talking to you tomorrow. Now that I have that knowledge that other people think that, now I want to take a closer look at it, especially since I'm involved in a project that's going to have some impact on it. When you say anticipation, do you also mean expectations? No, because we can have expectations and they kind of, well, I guess it's all semantics, Hugo. When I think of expectations, I have expectations about everything, right? Good or bad. I don't embody those expectations, though, on a moment-to-moment basis. Like, I'm not aware of it. When I'm anticipating something, it's more present in my mind. It's now more driving behavior. If something doesn't match with my expectations, then all of a sudden my expectations become very real to me. So I would say not, but I think it's semantics. It's kind of how you define those words that I think makes the difference. So let's go back to this, because I just want to show you guys some things. We're not really going to dive that deeply into it right now, but I just want to show you a little bit more of this, right? Let's see here. All right. So, okay, so why only the first segment? Now, in this, I'm not lying, but I'm stretching the truth, right? I had a very limited amount of time to finish this. I certainly was not telling people in the report that my team had overcommitted to an event. We don't want to lose $500,000. And so I needed to come up with a hook for a seminar. And so I decided on attention, and I think I'm right, and you should come, right? So that's one. I did determine that attention is the thing, but I had to come up with something, and obviously I'm going to do my best to be right. So, but I'm now kind of taking this story and kind of sharing specific pieces, but not all the pieces. I'm kind of like the way Michael Moore puts a documentary together. I'm telling a story. Right? When you're trying to put a documentary together to convince a group of people of going one way, it's not smart to lie, so you don't. But that doesn't mean that you have the onus of responsibility is not for you to best represent the other side's points at all. And so, anyway, here, what I'm talking about is now I'm giving a reason why there's a report, why it's 3 weeks before an event. And it's all about this call I have with Jay Abraham and Jay telling me that I need to release the report. It gives me the excuse of why I'm not giving the full report, which I will come back afterwards, after my event, and do it. And guess what? Just, because I don't think it's obvious to most people. Guess what the second part, now that I asked the question, though, I hope it's somewhat obvious. Guess what the second part sold? If this first part sold the seminar, what did the second part sell? Someone guess. Just looking at what's here. I took this off the market afterwards because it doesn't deliver a solution. And I had that happen to me where I read something and it didn't have the solution. I didn't like it. So I decided that I would only keep the Attention Age Doctrine 2 out there. All right. No. So I got 2 guesses so far. So thanks, Chris. Defer Vogelman. Let's see. Go back here for a second. And so not a mastermind and not consulting. I guess the second part sold access to the course created during the live event. That's right. I sold the home study course. So all the attention thing, I didn't have to create something else on attention. I decided maybe 5 weeks before that event that I was writing a report. I wrote that report in 2 weeks. I put that out and then did the event, then wrote the Attention Age Doctrine 2 that sold the home study of that. And, we sold, I don't know, $2, $3, $4 million worth of the home study program. But all I did was continue the theme, right, and take it further in the second one. And I felt like I would most likely get most of the people who read 1 to read 2, and that would give me a chance then to take it further. A sleepover at my house. Oh, that would be funny. This is my first time here. I'm in the midst of writing a lead gen book. What do you recommend that are the must to include? Angelina, what is the lead gen book on? That's kind of important. And what is the action you want people to take after they've read your book? If you tell me those 2 things, I'll give you my best answer, Angelina. And let's see the recording. I would fly over from Germany. Ah, very nice. I'm honored. All right, so that's just about gaining leverage, right? And I'm just going to, I don't really remember the number, but let's say we sold about $3 million worth of the, of the quote unquote home study, which was really just the, the material and the videos from the event. I was disappointed and Jeff Walker was saying, was trying to pep me up. He's like, dude, you sold $3 million of videos of an event you did. Like, it's like nobody's done that. Like, don't look at it like comparing it to the coaching program you sold. You did an event. The event is over. You turned what most people have a hard time making any real money from into $3 million. So when he said that, I kind of felt, yeah, you're right. That's pretty good. Anyway, so I really wanted to introduce attention to you today. I didn't think that we'd go that far, and I don't think we have, but I wanted you guys to think about attention. I wanted you to think about and notice when something has your complete attention, how at that moment it's the most important thing. It's the most important thing. And that has implications, right? Because that means when you capture your prospect's attention, at that moment, you're the most important thing in the world. And if you can extend that, and don't mess it up, it causes lots of bonding, and it is the best way to make people receptive to what it is, the message that you have. I have to work through my old notes on attention, which I'll do by Tuesday. I will have finished, obviously, the book Wrapped and some other books on attention. But, you know, I have all these old notes. Let's see. I have these like plastic bins, right? That's where I used to put all my research. That's why when I found Tiago Fort, I was like, oh, you're the answer to all my prayers. I just wish I had all the stuff from the Attention Age Doctrines in Evernote, which I don't have. All right, so I'd love to answer some marketing questions if you guys want and have any questions on how I can help you. Hey, Rich, for whatever it's worth, there are a couple sections in the book Decoded on attention, just in case you'd like to revisit it. Yeah, that's a great book. I had recommended that to Maxwell Fenn, and he really liked it. Especially, like, Decoded has some really cool stuff about how the eyes work and, you know, that our peripheral vision is much more blurry than we recognize. Just cool stuff. But thanks for the reminder, Hugo. I certainly will probably check it out. So if you can capture maximum attention in a minimal amount of time, would you define that as success? I'm thinking of 15-second videos versus long hour webinars. Well, what I would say is that if you can keep someone's attention for an hour long, it's certainly more powerful than a 15-second video as far as the amount of impact, the amount of influence that you have on that person is significantly higher if you hold their attention for an hour than 15 seconds. But really holding their attention, which is obviously not that easy to do. I found it interesting. Great live stream today. Definitely thought-provoking. Okay, so Angelina. My niche are hairstylists who rent their chair. It's on 7 areas that they need to be incorporating into their business, such as marketing, finance, their environment, pricing, services, creating systems. It's a new business niche for me, and I have a clean slate as to what my call to action would be, feeling like it would be a checklist or something easy to consume. Yeah, it definitely needs to be easy to consume, Angelina. The issue, though, is that sounds very intimidating to me. So if you look at what I would recommend, Angelina, is to look at the Internet Business Manifesto, right? And because it's what I'm about to say is the difference between what I'm hearing from you, at least. It might not be what you're saying, but what I'm hearing from you and what I did. If you look at the Internet Business Manifesto and you look at that U diagram shows a visual, hopefully visceral image that evokes overwhelm and frustration with all these things to be done. And I'm writing this report, leaving it behind for everyone because I'm no longer going to be coaching, right? I haven't coached anyone on that material since then. And I am leaving it behind, and my solutions seem easier, less work, less effort, right, than what they're doing now. Angelina, what I'm concerned about is when you talk about breaking things into 7 areas, it already seems like a lot of work. That doesn't mean that you can't cover everything that's in those 7 areas. And I think Oren Claff, right, who someone mentioned earlier in the comments, in Flipping the Script, I think is the book, he has this section all about how you're taking everything that's different and grouping it into one thing and then calling it that one thing, right? So, Angelina, your goal is to oversimplify in the beginning so you can get people's attention. And then as they lean in more, you can talk more about these 7 things. But you first have to get their buy-in for their attention. And, oh, look, there's a more time-consuming, more effortful way of doing things. Well, if everyone was always attracted to that, everyone would be thin, everyone would be successful, because we know what we need to do to be thin, to be more successful, to be a better parent. We don't necessarily do it, but we know, right? So, and the reason why we don't do it, one of the reasons is that it's a lot more work. And so you don't start a message with breaking things into 7 areas if they don't even think there is 7 areas. And I don't know that they're doing all those things. So you want to kind of like talk about bringing together a system or a process that ultimately gets done a lot of things, but I wouldn't break it into 7 areas and like make it more of a more than that. And I understand what you're saying about a checklist, but the checklist, if it's broken out into those 7 areas, it looks like a lot to do. And if they don't know that you have a solution that's not that, then you might be pushing people further away. If they get that, and when they get it, it's like, these are all the tasks that go away when you use my system, well, that's a totally different thing. That's why I was asking, if that makes sense. Well, all right. So hopefully that helps. Just wondering about the dopamine rush and its subsequent fatigue. Got to keep hitting it, right? That's why people can stay in a casino forever. 1 thing with 3 things max. That might be one way of doing it, Milos, but like if you think about even in the manifesto, right? I took a lot more issues and just labeled them as an opportunity seeker and took all the positives and made him a strategic entrepreneur. So it can be more than 3, but if it's something... It can't be more than 3. It just takes a little bit more finesse. So I hope that helps. Any other questions, guys? Let's see. Eckhart Tolle on The Power of Now would be a great read as it focuses on the power of being in the moment. Yeah, I liked that book. I liked The Untethered Soul better. I thought that was better. And then above and beyond that, I like a gentleman by the name of Anthony De Mello. Anthony De, D-E, space, M-E-L-L-O. One of my favorite talks I've ever heard is his talk on awareness for the more spiritual stuff. Thank you for these live sessions. Listening to you is to learn new things and new perspectives. I feel like I grow with every one of these sessions. I truly appreciate it. Thank you. Well, my pleasure, man. No one at home wants to listen to me. So cool. All right. So you know what? I think we're going to wrap early. If you guys didn't watch this past Tuesday's, it's on YouTube, and for whatever reason, it seems more popular than a lot of the other live streams. Not really sure. I think it might be because there's 3 of us. I would imagine that these live streams would be more entertaining when there is someone else, and so I don't know. I might explore that at some point. I'd love to do some with Todd Brown. So maybe we'll do a few. I'm going to ask him that next time I talk to him. And the wonderful Denise has just joined us, or is just talking, so let's see what she has to say, and then we'll say goodbye. Hey, Rich, great as always, listening while working, and yes, ADD here. Lately, people are talking about not poking pain points, but trying to be more positive and serve to be ethical in these changing times. What are your thoughts on this? I'm working on a specific journal to help people focus on the positive daily and with their future possibilities. I understand it. It just makes me a little bit, I can't get away from, Denise, the impact of that on a societal level. And I think, so I have a problem with it in areas that are unrelated to what you're talking about. And because of that, I don't know that I can see clearly and speak effectively about it. Because when I hear that stuff, Denise, and this is not against you at all, but like that's what Facebook wants, like no negative stuff in their thing. To me, it's kind of like a George Orwell or an Aldous Huxley novel. What I think it was an Aldous Huxley novel where you hold the orb and you feel good. It's like, okay, well, we're just going to hold this our whole lives. That's what we're going to do. We're going to feel good, do nothing, accomplish nothing, achieve nothing. And that most, it was Arthur Schopenhauer that said all great truths go through these stages. First it's ridiculed, then it's violently opposed, then it's accepted as self-evident. When it's violently opposed, like that carbs actually aren't as healthy as what people are saying, or cigarettes are not as healthy as what doctors once claimed, right, in the cigarette companies. If those, that would not be a message that you could get cancer from it, that would be okay today. And I have a problem with that. I think that, and that's why I'm so anti-big tech, because I think they're doing serious damage to the world, that most messages come into the mainstream through alternative ways, and alternative publishing, alternative press has been sort of shut down, and that doesn't bode well for the world, in my opinion, especially when you have these mega media companies that seem to have an agenda other than just reporting honest news on both sides. So cool. Makes total sense. They're not doing all those things. In fact, they're mostly doing just social media, which is the slow boat to growing their clientele. I could see how they could feel overwhelmed by seeing these 7 areas incorporate. I was wanting to be an eye-opener for them and see why they're not making money. It helps. Thank you. So, yeah, so you do have to take aim at them spending all their time on social media. What you have to do, though, and this is just the human condition, right? So but certainly for entrepreneurs, every entrepreneur thinks that some other entrepreneur's got whatever their issue is figured out. Like they don't have that problem. So the grass is always greener, right? And that's everybody. You, me, these hairdressers, and everyone else in the world. We always think that someone else has got it figured out. And that, therefore, we're working way harder than we need to get the outcome that other people are getting, right? Like the last thing we want to consider is that, oh, they get this better result because they just work a lot harder than me. Nobody generally says that to themselves. Well, very few, right? So you have to get them to see that they're going to enjoy, they're going to spend less time in front of their computer. You have to kind of first get them away from that. And the most alluring thing is to get some outcome without having to do anywhere near as much as that. That could be the beginning of it. So hopefully that helps. I've read I Am That. So I've read, I'm a big reader. Yeah, cool. All right, guys. So anyway, it was my first day back. I didn't go to bed until like 5 in the morning this morning because I was on Las Vegas time. So my hope is I'm going to get a good night's sleep tonight. It was so nice to get back in front of my Juve lights and all that kind of biohacking stuff I have here. And yeah, so on Tuesday, I'm going to post these reports up to Facebook tomorrow or tonight. I'll do it tonight, just not right now. I want to kind of go see Kim and kind of chill for a little bit. But I'm going to post Attention Age Doctrine 1, Attention Age Doctrine 2 to the Facebook group for those who are maybe watching this on YouTube, there you go. That's the Facebook group. It's free to join, and there's a lot of other stuff that I've put in there over the past months, stuff that we normally would charge for, and it's all yours for free, and you don't even have to pay to get in. But no spam. We kick you right out if you end up spamming the group, like trying to promote your offers and stuff like that, especially if they're completely unrelated to what we do and what we talk about. But then we're going to go deeper. And for this, I want to, like, my goal is that this inspires me to do some work on attention this weekend, so that on Tuesday I've got some really cool stuff to share with you. Hopefully some of that I'll be unburying, because I know I came across so much great stuff back then. And some will be from my current Evernote accumulation on attention, because I'm always fascinated by it. And so with that stated, I just want to once again thank you all for participating. If you shared it, I super appreciate it, but I appreciate everyone for being here watching. I appreciate those of you who commented and emojied even more, and those who shared the most. And on what, like, wait, so next Tuesday, will that be after the election? Does anyone know? Is that after the election? I think it is. If it's after the election, then the next time we talk, it'll be interesting to see what's going on in the world. So I'm anticipating that. That's going to be fascinating. I have no idea what's going to happen. So with that said, good night, everyone. To higher profits and beyond. I will see you guys on Tuesday, 2 to 4 Eastern Time. To higher profits and beyond. Chefrin out.